Wagwan, beautiful people, welcome back to another video. I'm still in Melbourne and it is still not sunny. I've been here for about a month and I leave in a few days. It's pretty flipping disastrous. However, I'm back here at Create Fitness and today what I want to do is walk you through, as a man soon to be in the veteran category in most flipping sports, as someone who's going to be 35 in a few months, go over a couple of absolutely flipping huge gym training mistakes that I consistently made in my 20s, and hopefully you guys can kind of win the shortcut, learn from this. I'll communicate these to you, and you guys absolutely have my permission and encouragement to not make the same. You will definitely speed up your training process, speed up the adaptation that you're trying to drive with the particular workouts that you're doing and the particular goals that you have by not doing everything that I will share with you that I did do over the last kind of 10 to 15 years. I'm doing a lower body session today as that is what is on my split. However, the rules and kind of guidelines that I'm going to be sharing with you are fairly generalized to both upper body, lower body conditioning, full body stuff, anything you want. General components and methodologies. Some of them were good, but I undervalued. Some of them are bad and I overvalued. So as has kind of become the style, I'll be doing a lower body session. You'll be seeing some of that. I'll be nipping out here and I'll be sharing with you everything that I cocked up on and hoping that you do not do the same. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Right guys, the warm up is done, hence the fact that the jumper is off and it is actually a little bit warm and sweaty, despite the fact that the sun's not really out. So the main mistake I would say, this is the reason I'm kind of starting with this first one, because I think it's absolutely flipping paramount. It is foundational and it would genuinely kind of change the way that a lot of people hopefully start to look at their overall programming. And it is this: a lot of young people in training, including myself, overvalued in the early stages certain exercises, hoping they would elicit a certain training result, as opposed to focusing on the way in which we actually executed the particular exercise. As an example, with squats, if someone was like, are squats beneficial? I've used this example a couple of times now, and I'd be like, well, if you did 1,000 of them body weight, it would be good for kind of lactic and elasticity of tendons if you're just kind of like going up and down. But if you do 3 rep max, you're going to get stronger. If you do some controlled eccentrics and then explode up at 80% of your 1 rep max for 3 and then 3 minutes break and then go again, which is obviously a low number, then you're going to get more powerful. So the overarching concept of don't place too much value in certain exercises and instead transition that value and that emphasis onto the training variables of reps, sets, rest and tempo onto the way in which you're executing the certain exercise. That is the sponsoring thing. If you take one thing away from this video, hopefully it will be that, but don't focus on just that, please, because we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. As an example, if someone was like, are barbell back squats better for developing total strength and power and kind of good quality lean muscle mass compared to front squats, compared to trap bar deadlift? Obviously front squats compared to back squats, front squats are a little bit more anterior chain dominant, so quad dominant as an example. They'll work a slightly different kind of part of your musculature in your upper body based on where you hold the bar, but overall, in my opinion, the difference between the two is flipping tiny compared to the massive difference that you'll get in manipulating the execution approach. Reps, sets, rest interval and tempo are the 4 primary training variables that are going to dictate the training effect that you get. So you can look at the adaptation that you're trying to flip and drive and try and make sure that you manipulate those 4 to get the best result. So I'm actually about to crack on with some deficit trap bar deadlifts in a second of something I definitely got wrong in my 20s, which is for global kind of strength improvement and muscle mass improvement and joint and connective tissue health. One of the huge things I underrated was eccentric tempo, like a good controlled, true 3 to 4 second eccentric tempo, working at full range. Again, power work, working at top end is something I talk about. That's something slightly different, but for overall kind of global muscular activation and global kind of neurological recruitment, general muscle size, improvements in strength, control and stability as well is a huge thing, and health for your joints and connective tissues, eccentric tempo and making sure that we work at full range. Those 2 things kind of in one little component cluster is my second tip of the day, and acknowledgement of something that I definitely undervalued in my 20s. We're going to get onto a few more components in a second, guys, but for now, that's enough chit chat. Let's lift. Okay, so trap bar deadlifts are done. Flipping heck, they are just so taxing, like muscularly, neurally, everything. And as someone who's naturally elastic, which I talk about a lot and more of my kind of like speed, power, explosive videos, controlling eccentric tempo is very, very flipping hard for me. Probably one of the reasons, again, subconsciously or not, I probably discounted it from a lot of my training in my 20s because it's naturally quite challenging, and so is working at full range. Like, I'm definitely a very, very snappy, very elastic, very top-end based athlete, which is why I'm crap at depth. I'm really, really bad with eccentric tempo. So those two things are probably the reason why in my 20s I just didn't really do much of it. That said, it's a tick in the box today, and I'm very flipping glad that I've introduced it more now in my 30s. So now on to my next hack, kind of on the other side of this. One of the other things that I undervalued a little bit in my 20s, not as much because I was a power-based athlete, but I absolutely believe that most people in their 20s did undervalue. If they're not sprinters or bobsleigh athletes like I was, where I have to be nice and snappy, I believe that a lot of people undervalue the absolute raw flipping power to, again, build power, build speed, build strength, but also build good quality lean muscle mass, of really focusing on a good, fast, dynamic, rapid, explosive, concentric phase. As an example, with a squat, Ross Edgley actually says in his book, The World's Fittest Book, that the top roughly like 28% of a movement, you're actually slowing down, even if it's like a 1 rep max, because we're so much stronger and more powerful at the top end that once we've effectively got a barbell or whatever it is that we're lifting past a certain sticking point, we naturally start to decelerate. This means that we're losing a lot of the potential gain that we could get from every single rep. So speed on the concentric phase is definitely something that I see a lot of people not doing too well, and I think globally is undervalued by male athletes in their 20s. And the way that I'm going to solve that problem today, I'm actually going to superset a standard kind of Bulgarian split squat, and I'm going to do it with a barbell on my back. I'm going to do 5 or 6 reps properly loaded with the bar. I'm going to wrap the bar, then on the same leg I'm going to do 6 Bulgarian split squat jumps. This is something called contrast training. This is a really, really good way to get some speedy concentric work in when you have been going a little bit heavier. Basically go lighter and very quickly focus on making sure that concentric is nice and quick. So that's my third kind of observation and tip of the day, that the concentric phase of certain movements is massively undervalued by both men and women, but athletes primarily in their 20s. Bulgarian split squats, let's go. What is going on, guys? So that's Bulgarian split squats done. As you saw, I switched from a barbell to dumbbells basically because I was lazy and it was a quicker setup and I wanted to kind of get it done nice and quick, have kind of good angles for the camera without having to move around the barbell and the rack itself. So effectively we've covered 3 different principles so far. One of them is overvaluing the specific exercise instead of the variables that can be manipulated to drive home the adaptation you want from said exercise. The second one is undervaluing the benefit of both eccentric tempo and working at full range for certain movements for, again, kind of strength, joint, tendon, ligament health, as well as muscular size and strength. And the third one is undervaluing the benefit of injecting some concentric speed work in everything, either as a main part of kind of the main compound exercise you're doing in a session, or having it as an accessory movement kind of after the main compound. There are 2 more principles, 2 more massive things that I undervalued and kind of got wrong in my 20s that I'm going to cover with you now. First one is foundationally underestimating and undervaluing the amount of benefit that we get from novel stimulus. That's basically a posh scientific way to say we literally get both a dump of kind of dopamine in our brains and actually a better training effect when we do something new. This could either be a new exercise, a new way of executing the particular exercise. There are a hell of a lot of studies that can say the same workout performed by 100 different athletes, 50 of them do it as they normally do, 50 of them have literally a different kind of slightly more playful warm-up and then do exactly the same workout. The ones that had the more playful new warm-up end up doing better in the workout and therefore getting a better training response and adaptation from it. So that's the first one, massively undervaluing the benefit that we get from new stimulus. So the idea of, if you're 18, spending 6 months on a particular program before you start to mix things up, you're just flipping wasting time. Do something new, mix it up. Again, you can have the variables the same. If you're still chasing strength, have the variables manipulated in a certain way that they will get that, but maybe change the reps a little bit, maybe introduce some pauses, maybe change the tempo, maybe do some drop sets, some cluster sets. Novel stimulus is phenomenally beneficial for your neurochemistry. So again, it's not just a psychological thing. You physically get a better physiological adaptation from that newness. Second one for this particular part of the workout, and fifth one and final one total overall for today. And this is incredibly new for me, so this is kind of from a real heartfelt space because I've only been doing this for about 12, 18 months myself. It's underestimating the physiological drive you get from a burner set at the end of a strength and hypertrophy set. Something that feels a little bit more kind of like cardio based with slightly higher reps, where you're a little bit out of breath as well. It feels a little bit gassy. It might feel a little bit more aerobic. If you do a superset or a tri-set or a little kind of like localized burn circuit at the end, you might not be shredding as many muscle fibers as you did when you're doing heavy sets of 8 earlier in the session, but you're getting a phenomenal amount of oxygenated, protein-filled blood shunted to the particular area that you want to be driving that adaptation for. So that's what I'm going to do now, guys. I'm going to do a little lower body circuit. Effectively, I've done the muscular damage part of my strength and hypertrophy session today. The fact that I've done 4 or 5 sets of those 2 exercises, deficit trap bar deadlifts and Bulgarian split squat contrast, so that's kind of 2 exercises in one. Now what I'm going to do is just go for kind of the metabolic stress part of it and pump as much blood as possible to that area to maximize the benefit from this hypertrophy session afterwards. I haven't quite figured out what those exercises are going to be yet, so let's get in there and see what happens. And I know you will all be incredibly happy to know that I did in fact survive that session. So there we have it, guys. There is an insight into a couple of the biggest mistakes that I believe that I made in my 20s, and I really hope that you guys, especially if you are a little bit younger, can learn from my mistakes, get the shortcut associated with that, and help make strides to improve your own performance, your health, and your physique by bypassing some of those cock-ups that I made for a while. Any questions on anything that was covered today, guys, please do put down in the comment section below. If you have not yet done so, please do subscribe if you're a hybrid athlete, if you are a functional bodybuilder, if you're a CrossFitter, if you're just a general fitness enthusiast. Lots of amazing content coming up over the next few months. And if you do not subscribe, you might flipping miss it. And that'll be disastrous. And you're gonna feel silly, aren't you? And no one wants that. If you did enjoy this video, please do smash that like button. And the best thing that you could ever do for me is please share this video with someone just like you that will also enjoy it as much as you did. But for now, team, please stay strong, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will see you very soon.